Yes, here are my questions.
No, I'd like to ask you a question. I don't think we know that. Are
Yes,
you,
we
are
have.
you related to Mr. Smith?
Yes,
Okay.
we have met.
I didn't know this lady was related to this Mr. Smith, but I do want the people here to understand that she is against the splash pad for y'all and your children and your grandchildren, the same as he is.
You were out of
and
order.
has tried to.
You were out of order.
All right, let's go around and
You are completely out of order.
But they need to
I
know.
am the chair of this meeting. I am the chair of this meeting. I say when people are out of order. Mr. Baker, do you have any comments? I always let you have comments after speakers. Do you have any comments or questions?
For the last speaker? No, I think you said it quite well. It was a rather eloquent explanation. I have no question.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
I appreciate it when anybody speaks before the group and shares their thoughts and feelings with us. We want to listen to everybody. Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Webb?
No comment.
Ms. Franson?
Nothing more, thank you.
Ms. Shirey?
No comment.
Okay.
May I say that
Your comments are over. I'm sorry.
I'm
Next.
addressing Ms. Franson, since she addressed me.
You already told me who you are.
We are next with
Robert Moore.
Hello, Mayor and Council, and I'm going to be short because a lot of my concerns were just addressed. I did look at that park, and I'm kind of concerned why it was, the splash pad is going to be put in so far away from the schools, all four schools. That's a good distance. I think that probably a lot of the citizens of Mobile will get as much or more use out of that park as the citizens of Semmes, where it's located. And I do live in a subdivision that's has a railroad track running behind it, and I do see hobos and vagrants walking through our neighborhood. So that track runs a long distance beside that park, and that should be some concern. And I know there's fencing and things that could be possibly used, but I'm not sure you could keep everyone out. And I guess being a retired insurance adjuster, I'd be concerned about the liability issue of having a pool or splash pad that's wet, kids running, falling, that the city would have a great deal of exposure. There's insurance for that probably. Well, I know there's insurance for that, but I'm sure it's going to be costly. And that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you,
Any
Tom.
comments? Comments?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. Appreciate it.
Mr. Webb? Ms. Franson?
No comment.
Mr. Shirey?
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thanks for coming tonight. I don't really know if there's a lot that we can do with vagrants on the railroad track. The railroad track splits Semmes just about in half, and it also runs right along a lot of our residential neighborhoods, but there's not really a lot that we can do about that, except what we had talked about, which was fencing that area off. So the liability issue for the water of the splash pad, I've talked to Amic, that's our insurance company, and for a splash pad, they're telling me it's not a big liability issue. But they advise the city, do not get a pool. Pools are what seems to be what will really explode your liability insurance. So the liability issue for the splash pad did not seem to be a problem at all with the insurance company. So, okay. Next.
Helen Joyce.
Helen Joyce, Pollard Road, which is a police jurisdiction. I'm a member of the Parks and Rec committee, but now having listened to the previous first speaker, I sort of wonder why we even have Parks and Rec community since government's not responsible for any entertainment.
That's right.
But it is kind of funny though that when we incorporated the city of Semmes, a lot of concern was keeping our tax dollars in Semmes, providing for the growth of the area, things that are beneficial to the community. It's just kind of interesting because we heard comments about who would want to drive to a splash pad or a park. Semmes is not really a walking community at this point. You got to drive even from the post office to the CVS. I used to live in the city of Mobile. I regularly drove to the municipal park. So anyway, but as I am here also as a member of the Parks and Rec Committee, we had a special meeting on last Monday night. The urgency that was raised was the fact that this grant opportunity came up. It was presented to our committee, of which Councilmember Shirey is the chairman, and that we considered it and unanimously recommended that it be brought to the council. The budget had already been approved for the city, $130,000 for the park. So all this talk about costs and expenses, Jason Franklin, the Public Works, had provided detailed information. Obviously, there'd be more details when construction, but all this is that was defeated by a procedural move, thanks to Councilmember Webb last Wednesday, by failing to vote for the immediate consideration, is just the first level of screening, just to even see if there's a possibility to get a grant. So I find it interesting. There may be concerns of location and other things. People have different opinions about that. But here's an opportunity to even try and get some more funds that were taxpayer money back from the state for something to benefit our community.
You have 1 minute.
And thank you. It's a shame. It was disappointing to see. And so as far as the urgency, it is, and even if there might be other grant opportunities down the road, there's no telling whether or not there's going to be a grant opportunity for this type of facility. So as a member of the community and on the Parks and Recreation Committee, and I think you should consider just even allowing the city to proceed with applying for the grant. There's no guarantee that the grant's even going to come, and then the city will have to revisit exactly what will be placed at the park. But I think you're doing a disservice if you don't even allow the process to move forward. Thank you.
Comments, Mr. Baker?
Okay.
Mr. Smith?
You mentioned details, and that's one of our big problems here. We have not been presented anything that, any details, really. There are a tremendous number of questions we have about what this is going to cost. You know, you can get into a deal, and then all these things get added on, and once you're into it, you just have to keep pouring money into it. We want to see a plan. We want to see an idea. We want to see details that we can say, okay, we know what we're talking about. We don't even know what the size of a splash pad would be, and they make them in all kinds of sizes, from $1,000 up to $1 million. So we kind of like to know what we're talking about here. And so, and this has also been on the boards for 4 months, and all of a sudden, last Monday night, it happens. What happened? You know, we had 4 months. And we were handed a very, very, very sketchy drawing and no details. So we'd like to know what we're talking about. So we don't have details.
Explain to me, we'll all know why we're here tonight. To approve the park or approve the application of the money.
To approve the application for the grant. Okay, Ms. Franson?
Thank you for asking that question, because I
You're
was,
welcome.
thank you for asking that question, because I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I would imagine when we start spending the money, that's when we'll tighten up any plans and engineering or whatever we need to do. That's where that comes in. This is merely to apply for a grant. Thank you.
Ms. Shirley?
Okay, and keeping with what Ms. Franson just said, my question is, all right, if we apply for the grant, it's up to 130,000 matching funds, is that correct? In other words, if we spend 50,000, they match it, if we spend 100, they match it, but it's not set in stone that this is going to be a $260,000 outlay, is that correct?
We just, well, Jason Franklin had, this was on Wednesday of this past week. You were here. He presented a PRF, project request form, and it actually laid out the entire project. It laid out the whole diagram of the project. Everybody got to see this. And he individually went over the line item cost of the entire project, which was estimated to be, I think it's $253,000. Is that correct, Mr. Franklin?
It's 259.
259, okay. I couldn't remember, I thought it was 253. So we did go over a complete explanation of all of the cost, and that came actually from an engineering firm. It wasn't something that we just pulled out of the air. So I know that Mr. Smith asked that, but all that was presented this past Wednesday night. So we've got a really good
Is it available
handle.
anywhere?
Ma'am, this is not public comments, you've had your turn. So all that's been gone over in detail. I think Mr. Franklin was up there for quite a while. We can do it again if people would like to go through that again, but all that, this came from an engineering firm. So these are, I think these are good estimates, cost estimates. We did not do this design, an engineering firm did this design and laid it out. Things were considered, actually where the trees are, so that we wouldn't have things like Ms. Smith said, she had questions about the sap from the pine trees. All that was considered when the engineer did the plans. So this is not something that's, I don't want people to think that this is something that the city's just thrown together. This has been, we've had professionals work on this. So that's my comment. Okay,
Madam President,
you've had your turn.
show me where those figures are on this.
Who's next, please, for public comments?
Lacey Hammer?